Your clients, when you meet with them, are going to they're going to show you some flags. Like they're going to give you some like very obvious signs as to whether or not there's someone you should be working with, or somebody you should not be working with, right? And if you don't recognize these, you're just going to be running into a ton of problems. Like, you're going to be working with people that you hate. Carmen says, "Holy shit. Thank you, Carmen. That is perfect." And so the best way to avoid bad clients and avoid hating your job, really, is to not work with them in the first place. And that's all going to be done through recognizing these little cues when people are running through your consultation process with you, or calling you on the phone, or literally joining on, or even sending you an email. Like, sometimes you can pick up stuff from emails where you're like, "Oh, this client, not for me." One of the first ways you can look that up is, like, if you like the wedding venue they're working at, it's probably a good sign. If, on the other hand, you see that wedding venue, you go, "Wow, that looks like an abandoned Chuck E. Cheese. I'm good." That's probably a bad place, right? We don't want to work with them. Okay. The problem, though, is that unless you're really experienced, these warning signs that you're supposed to be seeing are not super clear right off the bat. Right? They're not the immediate, you don't know how to read these. So you start taking weddings just because, oh, this person can pay my rate, so they should be one of my clients. And that's not the criteria we need to be looking at. Yes, the ability to pay for your services is important, but more important than that is if they're a good fit for you personally. Okay. And so a lot of times what happens is we shoot a wedding, and at the end of the wedding we go, "You know what? I remember in the consultation where they like hated each other, and I didn't feel like this wedding was going to go anywhere. And now they're canceling on me, and I could have seen that." Tyler says, "I would like to shoot in an actual abandoned Chuck E. Cheese." Just go to like anywhere in Indiana. I'm sure there's 7 or 8 in every city. Anyway, The most empowering thing to remember is you don't need to book every client that comes in for inquiries. Again, we kind of talked about this last week, where it's like, you don't want to show up like desperate for the booking. You need to like go in with the expectation of like, "You know what? This client might tell me no, but there's going to be another one that's going to come through the door that's going to tell me yes." If you're coming in like, "Oh, I have to book every single person I talk to," then you're going to start ignoring red flags. And like I said, that's just going to lead right into, "Oh, well, I hate this wedding. I don't like this client. Oh, I really don't want to do my job anymore. And now I feel overwhelmed. I'm burnt out all the time." When you're working with the right people, though, you don't feel that. You feel excited. You're a harder working photographer. You're more excited to give them images. You're more excited to invest in what's important to them. But again, we ignore those red flags and we get problems. And so you can and should say no sometimes about it, but you don't need to be a jerk. Okay. This isn't, "You know what? I think you two are assholes and I don't want to work with you." We don't say that to people, because that's going to get us really negative reviews and kind of a reputation amongst the people that we do want to work with, like the other vendors. You don't want to be a jerk when you're saying like, "I don't think you're a good fit." And so you can say no these 3 ways. "No, I'm not sure this is a good fit." Now, this means, "No, I don't think that I am a good fit for your wedding." And this means you can send them other referrals, right? You can send them like, "I think this other photographer might be a better fit for you." And you can give them reasons, right? You can say, "I think that maybe our personalities are a mixed match," or "the kind of photography that I do," right? This is why we ask them why photography is important inside of the consultation. "The type of photography I do isn't what you're looking for." So, for example, if someone comes to me and they're looking for like editorial style images, and they're looking for specific magazine covers and things like that, then I might say, "No, we're just not a good fit, because the way I shoot is mostly candid. It's 90% candid. There's a little bit of posing, a little bit of like scene setup, but for the most part, it's candid. So I don't have this like editorial style that they're looking for." That's a good reason to say no to somebody, because you're not going to deliver what they actually want in the first place. "No, I can't do it within your budget." Okay, here's the big deal. When you set up the minimum level of money you're going to accept, right, or the minimum level of experience you're going to give, and the minimum level of cost that you have to it, you can't go lower than that. So when someone says, "Oh, I need you to do this for $1,000," no, sorry, our minimum is here. So there are ways you can manipulate that. So if someone's willing to meet you at the beginning, like family, for example, I do this a lot with my family. If they can't meet me at the base price, and I don't tell them that I'm going to discount this in any way, shape, or form, but if they can't meet me at that base price, then I know that it's not really that important for them to have me as their photographer. So I will go somewhere. I will just tell them, "Hey, listen, here's one of my other friends, or here's somebody else that is within budget that's going to do what you're looking for. I'll just come as a guest." So saying, "No, I can't do it within your budget," it's not a bad thing to do. right? It's basically the idea that, like, listen, I have minimums for my business. It does cost me to accept a wedding from you. It does hurt my business ultimately if I take a wedding for less than what I think I'm worth. Here's why. When you start accepting weddings like this, what happens is, and this happened, by the way, for my sister's best friend. This is exactly what happened. We did her wedding. I accepted it at like half of my base price, and then COVID happened, and we had to do the wedding twice. And then on the second day that we did it, because I just moved a date over for her, so really, really giving at this point, right? I got offers to do, like somebody wanted me to come do a celebrity wedding that was down in Nashville, Tennessee. So I was kind of resentful of shooting that wedding during that day because I've now lost $10,000 versus the $2,000 that I got in. And it's not like that couple wasn't important to me, but I've already shot like a wedding for them. And so when we say like, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and make a sacrifice here, you're going to continuously fall down that hill. You're just going to keep dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. And it's going to piss you off later on. And it's not really that couple's fault because you're the one that accepted the job. So saying, no, I can't do within your budget is actually the nicer thing to do for that couple. You don't want to give less than what you can. Now, obviously, if they really, really like hit you for discounts, it's also a red flag, right? Here's this one. This one's just really blank. No, I'm not interested. Now, this is what I say when we're really, really not like personality matches, and I don't want to share any recommendations because I feel like that couple is just going to be a problem couple. So I'll literally say, no, I'm not interested. Okay. And now I can say, no, I'm not interested through email. I can say it right to their face in a consultation if I need to. And I don't necessarily have to justify this. I can just say, no, I'm just not interested. Good luck on your wedding. And that does feel a little harsh, right? It does feel like, oh, well, I'm not going to help this person further. But if they're assholes for better terms, for lack of better terms, right? I'm not going to send them to friends so that the friends have to deal with the assholes. I'm not going to send them to other struggling photographers so that the struggling photographers now have a new red flag story. I'm just going to say, no, I'm not interested and let them go. I do not have there is no rule or statute that says I have to serve every single person that comes into my business. No, you have the right to refuse anyone for any reason. Now, if you decide to disclose reasons that are completely bullshit, like anything that would be discriminatory, that's a problem. Okay. But if you literally just don't like someone's personality and you're just like, you know what, I don't like the whole vibe here, or I feel really uncomfortable. No, I'm not interested. Tyler says, I'm looking for a wedding photographer for $100. Only need a ceremony, then a long 3-hour break, and then a few shots at reception. Hell no. I do not leave my house for less than the minimum level of experience. So that minimum of $5,000 that my brand has, that's the minimum it takes for me to come and shoot a wedding. There's no less than that. Okay? So let's talk about some green flags we look for, right? Let's talk about the good things first. They're excited to talk to you. Yeah, so here's the deal. Like, we have this process. Now, if you've taken my course Manifest, you know that we like to do a phone call first. It's called a beer test. Basically, this beer test is to make sure that we're a good fit personally and also to find out what it is that they're really looking for in their wedding. And then we have a consultation. If they're not excited to do either one of those steps, that's a problem for me. That's a reason for me to say, no, I'm not interested, because clearly they just want a price and just want to move on. Now, I can give them like the base level price, but I'm not going to go any further than that because all my weddings are custom. They're custom to every client we work with. And so when they're not excited to talk with me, that's a problem. No, I'm not interested. But when they are excited and I can see they're engaged and they're asking questions, they're listening to what I have to say, now that's a green flag. That's like, oh, this is going to be a good client because they're actually curious about the process and want to get this done correctly. Okay? Both partners ask and answer questions. Again, this is about being present. So when you're working with the couple and they're both asking questions, and it's not like it's typically like the bride that asks a bunch of questions and the groom is just sitting back there like on his phone or watching some dumbass football game. Like, that's a problem. But when they're both asking and they're both excited and they're like, hey, can you do this? Well, what about this? I have this crazy idea. Or like those couples that like to prank each other. Those are also some of my favorite couples. Like the ones who want to do like the best friend in the wedding dress for the first look, and it's like a surprise, or a random stranger. I'm still trying to get someone to do that. Those are my favorite kind of couples. Those are couples I really want to work with because they're very interested, they're invested, they're excited about getting married. Their focus is on the fact that they're getting married. Those are important things to be looking for, right? The reasoning behind their ideal moment. So one question I like to ask is like, okay, so say it's like 3 years from your wedding day and you just bought a brand new house. I like to paint a future that they really would want to have. So they just either built or bought a new house and they have one wall that they want to put a giant picture from their wedding on. So I ask each partner what their ideal moment's going to be, right? And if one says like, yo, when I'm drinking with my buddies, and the other one says the first time I get to see my partner at our first look, those are two very, very different people. Okay? One is not even including the fiance or partner that they're marrying in that moment. The other is really, really looking for intentional emotional moments. When they're having that big of a disconnect, that could be, not necessarily, but could be a sign that the couple has some sort of relational issue that might come up later for you. Okay, that's something to kind of look out for. Now, this is not like a hard and fast rule, but typically I will say sometimes this is a reason to kind of shy away from them. But when they're on the same page and they're both like, no, I can't wait for the first look, or it's still an emotional moment connected with that other person, this is a really good sign that this couple really does love each other, and that's what they're coming here for. And that's what we want to look for. We want to look for people who really, really love each other. That way, when they get married, we're not like just finishing up the gallery and they go, you know what, we got divorced. Also, that happened to me once. They talk about things they are excited to do instead of things to buy. Okay, so this is more of a personal one for me. When someone's talking about, I can't wait to buy this, and I can't wait to buy this, and we're going to get all these gifts from the guests, and we have everything that we can get, and we're going to show off all these things. When they're talking about things they can show off instead of moments they can have, that's a problem. They're not connected to the experience, and the experience is really huge. I sell an experience. I don't sell photos. Photos are just like the end result of it. And so when people are talking to me and they're saying, "Oh, I can't wait for I can't wait to buy this really crazy expensive suit." Now, there's nothing wrong with saying that like in general, but like if that's the only thing they talk about and they're not talking about the moments they're going to have with their partner, or they're not talking about the family that they have coming in there, or they're not talking about the friends that are going to be there, that's a sign for me to go, "You know what? Maybe this isn't a great fit." Because I'm also, again, this is going to lead more to that editorial style of photography, or that really high glamour, high fashion type thing where I'm just not that kind of photographer. Okay? They connect with your personality. This is the biggest one, right? If they don't connect with your personality, what do you think is going to happen on the wedding day? You're going to walk in, you're going to try and assimilate with the bridal party so that they're comfortable around you and allow you to take real moments. And it's not going to work because they just don't fit with your personality. Okay? When they connect and you guys are on the same page and it's like, oh, you know what? Not only would I photograph this couple, but I would hang out with them for dinner, or I'd go get drinks with them, or I would spend my free time with them. That's a very, very different thing, right? That's like, oh, now I'm photographing friends. So now I can ask deeper questions. Now I can find out what really, really matters to this couple. But if they're not connected with you and they're opposites, okay? So for me, someone who, like a really good example is like someone who wants to talk with me about politics all the time, or wants to, I don't know, is like super into sports, and that's really the definition of their personality. Like they do not have any other use in life besides sports. If they don't if there's not like a common ground somewhere, then I'm just going to be an awkward add-on to the day, and they're going to be better served by another photographer. So it's okay for me to say, no, I'm not interested. And I can even explain that and just like, listen, I don't think we're a good personality match, and that's really important because your wedding day is all the highs and lows. So I'm with you through the best parts of your day, and I'm going to be there if something bad happens. Okay? And something bad could be anything from like, a makeup artist being late, or just completely ignoring my advice to not make the bride last because that makes the whole damn day late. It could be it could be like a chair goes off, like depending on how like type A that person might be. It could be like a chair's missing and they're like, I don't know where to put this other guest, and then they're going to be sad, they're going to be upset, or the dress button, maybe like the one of the bustling hooks like breaks off. Like these little things, these little stressful things seem like very insignificant things right now, but on the wedding day, that's a big moment, and so they might start crying, they might be upset, they might get angry, and if you're a bad personality to be around that person, guess who gets to receive all of that anger? It's you. Don't need it. Okay? They're micromanagers. They're not micromanagers. Okay, so I don't allow my couples to give me a shot list. Now, we have a shot list of sorts, right? I need to know which family members need to be in the family photos. I need to know kind of some important moments, but I gather that information myself. If they're going to give me a whole Pinterest board and say, I need every photo on this list, guess what? I'm not your photographer. I don't do that. I used to do that when I started, and it's something that a lot of like beginning photographers, did I just delete every word there? It's something that a lot of beginning photographers will do where they're like, okay, yeah, I'll take a shot list from Pinterest, sure. But here's what happens. You're looking at the shot list, you're like, oh, I didn't get this shot, I didn't get this shot, I didn't get this shot. And as you're checking that list, you're missing real moments that are happening between the people that they actually said were important to them. And so it's not a good thing to have something like that. If they're micromanaging everything you do and they want to know exactly where you're going to be every single second of the day, that's a problem. On the other hand, if they're not micromanagers and they're like, oh, I hired this person as a professional, they know what they're doing, they're going to get the moments back, I saw their portfolio, I trust them, that's a really, really great green flag, right? That's like, oh, I feel safe about this. I should definitely join in. So I'm looking for things where they're saying like, oh, I have a whole shot list. Now, again, they haven't been married before. They don't know my process. So if they say like, I have a shot list, I'll explain that. And if they say, I don't like that, then that's a good reason for us just not to work together. On the other hand, if they're cool with it and like, oh yeah, that actually makes more sense, now it's a good sign for me. So I do like to look for this. This is really important because I don't really do well with micromanaging. I barely do well with managing. So Carmen says, I've changed this to the family must-haves. Yeah. Family connections, like which family member should be in the group shots. That's great. Bridal party shots. I also like to ask them kind of like, do you like just really serious photos or do you want me to kind of goof around with your bridal party a little bit? And that allows me to create like more moments that are interesting to me, but also like allows them to make sure that I'm not missing a single family member, unless they're hiding, which does happen on wedding days. So now we're going to talk about just the red flags. Hey, thanks for watching. Look, if you could do us a favor and leave a like, a comment, or just subscribe to us, it would help other people find these videos. And if it's helping you, it's going to help them too. Thanks. Now, again, red flags are reasons for you to immediately just say no. And then obviously the opposites of the green flags are also red flags. But here's some specific ones that I really, really don't like. Immediately ask for a discount, okay? Immediately. Like we have no repertoire. We haven't talked. We haven't done anything. But the first thing they say is, can you do it cheaper? Can I have $1,000 off? Can you do it a little cheaper? Now, they might have read a book that tells them to do this, but this immediately pisses me off. Like this 100%, this is the best way to immediately like set me off and go, I don't want to work with you. Because this tells me that they're not looking for the best value they can get. What they're looking for is the best price. Right? And so that means that they might nickel and dime me the whole time. They might not trust what I'm saying. They may want to argue and be argumentative the whole time. Now, there is a difference between just asking for a discount and literally saying, I need a discount. But if the first thing out of their mouth is, can you do it cheaper? My answer is going to be, no, have a nice day. That's like that's the way we handle that. It's just, nope, sorry. And if depending on how they respond to that, they could either go back to the green flag area or they can just stay in the red flag area and we're just not going to shoot that wedding at all. But immediately asking for a discount is not good. You have to look out for these things. This is a problem client. It just is. Only one partner cares about photographs. Yeah. So when we're talking to the both of them and we're talking about photographs and why they love photography, the answer that I don't accept that lots of grooms love to give me is, well, my wife thinks, or my fiance thinks that the photos are really great, but I don't really care. I just want to make her happy. Now, I like the I just want to make her happy part, but I really hate the I don't really care about photographs part because it should be important to both of them. I want them to have a deep connection to what it is that I do. Otherwise, I'm not a good fit for them because they could get this cheaper somewhere else. Again, with me positioning myself as a luxury level photographer where we're booking more often at 10,000 than we are at 5,000, I know that for someone who doesn't value photographs, I'm not the fit. Like, I'm not your guy. Because I'm going to be focusing so heavy on making sure you have the perfect moments and all the things that you told me were important come back to you, that when only one person cares about them, I have to fight the other person to get them. This is just it's not a good working environment for me. It's not a good environment for them. They're probably spending more than they need to spend on it. This is a problem for me. So no, I'm going to bow out and I'm going to do something else. There's something else I can do with my time, or there's another couple that's going to come through and they're going to make my day easier, and they're going to be just as excited about their photographs as I am, and that's really important. Okay. One other red flag that's not on this list that I do typically look out for is if they ask for like an NDA, if they want to sign like an NDA. Now, sometimes I'm okay with it, but a lot of times what happens is I get too excited about the work that I shoot, and I want to post a quick little sneak peek somewhere, or I want to eventually share that shot, or I want to send it in for awards, and I don't have the personality where like I'm really great at just not doing it. So I know when I hear someone say like, oh, we really don't want to do this, it's not always the best fit for me. So I let them go. Now, this doesn't mean it's necessarily like a major red flag you should be looking out for, but just know that that is okay. Carmen says the reveal she did last night, the groom was in tears. Yeah, this is perfect. Someone has emotional connection to the moments. They have emotional connection to the photographs, and that's kind of what we're looking for, so that they're both happy when we're done. Again, if both partners don't value this, if they don't value the photographs you take, you're just looking for someone who's going to be unhappy. Like they're just going to be unhappy by the time you actually deliver everything. Wow, that's what $10,000 worth of photos look like? That's the question you're going to get. And that's not a good question for you to have. Or that was $5,000, that was $3,000, or whatever your price is going to be at. That's the reaction you're going to get, and it's going to piss you off, and it's going to piss them off, and everyone's going to be unhappy. So really look out for this one. They're more focused on their appearance than they are their experience. We kind of hit on this earlier, but again, if someone is more about getting featured on like a bride account for Instagram, or if they're more worried about the appearance of how they are rather than being how they are in front of their guests, this is a really, really big red flag for me. Because when they're not focused on appearance, right, and they're focused on how they look in front of everyone. So they're worried about public appearances, or they're worried about perceptions of everyone else, right? If they're worried about that more than they are of how good of a time they're going to have, or the moments that they're going to share, or the friends that they get to see that probably don't get to, like, as you get older, like they go far away, right? They go to college, they move to another town, they're far away, they're coming in, and it's like all those moments are going to happen. And when they're not focused on that, and they're like, well, I just want people to see me as a high-end bride, or they want people to, I want to be featured on Vogue magazine, or I want to, I just want the Instagram likes or whatever. Like, this is such, it's such a base level, shallow kind of thing that I don't really want to, like, I don't want to deal with it. Now, that doesn't mean that none of my brides care about their appearance on their wedding day. Obviously, they're going to care about that. But if it's that appearance over the appearance of over the experience, that's where it's a problem. Like, if the experience doesn't matter in comparison to the appearance. Yes, I made a rhyme. They already have complaints and are focused on them. Okay, so here's like the big deal, right? If I'm meeting with them and the first thing they say is, I just met with this fucking DJ, and this DJ's like got his head up his ass, and then this florist is doing something else. Like, if they're coming at me with complaints right off the bat, I don't know that I really want that client. For example, I did a wedding for another company. Like, friends came into town, they needed a photographer. I did a wedding for them. And the entire day, this groom was literally like nitpicking all the vendors that were coming in here. I see that red flag. So he was like, they had a really amazing looking charcuterie board. He was complaining about the charcuterie board. The bartender wasn't doing his job at 10 in the morning, which seemed a little aggressive to me. He was looking to get refunds from all these people. So at the end of the wedding, I almost guarantee that couple is going to come in and be like, yo, I don't want to deal with this. These are the photos we expected. I want a discount of some sort. I'm looking for those things right off the bat. So if they come in with a negative attitude, a negative mindset, they're already complaining. They're finding new things to have problems about. Sorry, that'd be my alarm. They're having, they have all these things that they're focused on that are really just like recreational bitching, right? Which means bitching with no purpose. So complaining with no purpose. If they're doing that kind of thing right off the bat, then they're going to do the same thing with your photographs, which means all you're going to be doing is running headfirst into problems. We don't want that. We don't want to deal with people who are just consistently negative. It's going to affect you. Okay. So you need to look out for this. Like, if the first thing they say out of their mouth is a complaint, that's a problem. They don't give you room to speak or listen when you do. Okay, so this is someone who doesn't see you as an expert. They don't think you're an expert. What they think is that they know everything, and there's no reason for you to tell them anything. So all they want to do is talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and they really do not want you to say anything. Now, I will say we do need to listen more than we talk. we're talking to potential clients, so we can kind of get to understand them better. But if they're literally never letting you say like what your process is, or they're stepping over you and saying like, well, this is how it's going to work for our wedding, or they're saying like, there's no way that it works that way, or they're just consistently like argumentative with you or combative, or don't show you any respect at all, you gotta let them go. This is a really, really bad client for you, because they're going to do that on the wedding day. And what happens is like, as you're shooting, like there's a level of confidence you start the day with. Now, if you're a really good photographer, you walk in, you're like, okay, I can handle this. But as someone continuously negs you out all day, or doesn't allow you to speak, or doesn't care what you have to say, or doesn't care about the schedule you set, or any of the other expertise you bring to the table, your whole mindset changes. Okay. Now you're not shooting with confidence. Now you're just shooting to hopefully get the day done the way you need to get it done and then leave. Now, I'm not saying you can't make that happen, but what I am saying is that if you can pick this up before you actually work with them, you can avoid a really, really terrible day for yourself. And that's kind of the goal here, right? They have insane expectations. Okay. So insane expectations could be anything from they have a full shot list for you from Pinterest, and they want every single image to happen, even if they don't even have some of those things. So like, for example, I had one couple who did not have a daughter, but wanted a picture of a daughter in a wedding dress from Pinterest. And I'm like, okay, but whose kid are we talking about? Because you don't have a kid, so I'm not going to just go take one from a park somewhere and then bring her into the wedding. Like, that's not happening. And they still like, nope, just got to find someone at the wedding and do the shot with them. I'm like, okay, I guess. Like, you have no connection. There's no, like, not a nephew, not a niece, not a, you know, there's no one specific that you want to just grab. Nope, just any kid. They were really, really adamant about that photo. It didn't end up happening. They got really pissed. And then I had to deal with like them being angry. It didn't happen because there were no kids nearby. Nobody had kids at that wedding that were young enough to even do the shot that they wanted, because the kid in the shot was like 2, maybe 3. Yeah, that's Carmen. Carmen says, wait, what? Yeah, so they wanted a shot of, it's like, if you go on Pinterest, I'm sure you guys have seen it, or if you've ever planned a wedding, I'm sure you've seen it. But it's a little girl, she's holding up her mom's dress in front of a mirror, and you have the shot of her face, but you also, in the mirror, but then you have like the behind shot where you can see it's like a toddler or whatever. They wanted that specific shot because they thought it was really great, but the thing is that they didn't have any kids at the wedding. It was insane expectations. Or they expect you to, like they demand almost that the wedding's going to win awards, or it's going to be put in books, or it's going to be published somewhere, or they expect you to show up with 3 or 4 photographers, or expect you to wear, in my case, like a tuxedo. Like I'm sorry, I don't wear anything around my neck because it gets caught in the it gets caught in the camera strap. Aaron says, this happened to me twice this year, all because of a reel I posted. Yeah. So this is the other thing. Like, you need to make sure that when you're posting content, you want to make sure that you're not setting weird expectations for clients, and they're just like, oh, well, I saw you do this in a reel, so now you have to do it again. Moments don't always re-happen that way. So we want to look for people with crazy expectations, or other expectations that don't even make sense. So like, sometimes they'll expect you to do another vendor's job. Okay. So, oh, that was Tam. Okay. Sorry, Tam. The link may not have worked. I don't know. It's 50-50. But so like someone's expectations of you might be that you literally act as their planner. So you act as their coordinator, you act as their planner. You are kind of running the show from that point, and that's just not your job. Like, you can help with timeline planning, because as a photographer, my belief is that you're the only person that's qualified to say how long it takes you to shoot certain things. Right? Every single photographer is going to be slightly different. Even planners don't really get to say that this is how long things take. And so you should create a timeline with your couples, and then coordinate with the timeline with the planner to make sure it makes sense for them, and you can explain your reasoning behind it. But when someone expects you to be the coordinator and the photographer and the hairstylist and the makeup artist and the tuxedo technician and the barber and all these like things at once, you can't do that. The more things you take on, and this is a really great example for those of you who are shooting both photo and video, the more things you take on, the less focus you have to give and the less passion you have to give to one particular task. You need to be laser focused on your job as a photographer to make sure you deliver on what you've actually promised somebody. Again, we talked last week about risk removal, and if we're going to be removing risk for them and taking the risk onto us so we can profit more, what we need to do is make sure that we're also delivering. And the only way you're going to deliver is if you have laser focus on the task that you actually have at hand. So don't be adding a ton of different extra things on the day of the wedding when you're trying to focus on shooting. Carmen says, I'm good at bustling dresses and boots. And see, here's the deal. I don't do that. I don't help with boutonnieres anymore. I don't help with ties. I don't help any of that. Like, that is not my job. They can Google it. They can find someone in the bridal party that does it. That's all for them. My job is to photograph moments as they happen. It's not to come in and become like a fashion consultant, I guess, at that point. Like, I don't do that stuff. It's not, it takes away from the moment too. Like, so let's say I do help them with the boutonniere. Well, now I've taken a moment away where like possibly the mom could have helped with the boutonniere or bustling the dress. Like, okay, I'm a guy. Nobody ever asked me to bustle the dress. Let's just be honest. But that's some other moment that I could shoot wide from and get like maybe her friend helping her bustle the dress, or like there's just so many other moments that could happen that me stepping in and doing someone else's job are taking away from that couple that I don't think it's worth the trade, right? They think their social media accounts are valuable to you. I'm going to tell you something. Nobody who tells you that they're going to share on social media that you did their wedding, and that's like, and they should get a discount for this reason, is going to actually give you any new leads. Okay. When they say, oh, I have 5,000 followers on Instagram, so we should get you a lot of publicity. That's cool. That doesn't work that way, but that's cool. That's not what you're really looking for, because you don't know why people are following them. For example, if let's say you have a bride who's like model level pretty, like she looks like she could have worked for Victoria's Secret at some point. Like she's really, really pretty. She posts a lot of bikini pictures or whatever. Most of her followers are going to be like horny dudes. That's really what they're getting. And that's probably not your ideal client, because those are typically single dudes, hopefully, right? Those followers mean nothing to you. They're not your ideal clients. They're not connecting to you to like ideal clients. Social media influencers do not need to get some sort of discount for the service that you provide. You should not sell yourself that way. Okay. And so when someone says, I have so many followers and, we'll talk about you, we'll do 5 posts or whatever, that's a whole different thing. And you still should be getting compensated in some way, right? So you still have to pay rent. Thaddeus says, talk is cheap. And even if they have 100K followers and we're legit, they won't post anyway. Yeah. This is the thing too. When people typically say this, they're used to getting shit for free, so they don't actually value what it is that they're giving you. So when they say like, "Oh, I'll post it on my Instagram for you," when that's like a trade reason for them, like they're trying to get something from you in exchange for that, they're typically not going to pay attention to what their actual commitment was. And so you'll get this person that goes like, "Yeah, we'll share," and then they'll not share, and then you'll point it out to them, and then what's going to happen is they're going to say, "Well, you missed this photo and this photo and this photo." So I don't agree. I don't get what I'm looking for, and I don't agree with that person on what they're trying to offer in the first place. The social media of your clients really is not for you anyway. If they get a ton of likes and you get referrals from it, great. But you should be asking them directly for referrals at the end of it anyway. That's how you get true referrals. You want to, you kind of compliment them. I think I showed this last week, but basically you want to say like, listen, I looked through all my weddings. I really liked working with you guys. Here's what I loved about working with you guys. And I was just wondering if you knew just one couple that was getting married and would love to get photos like you got. That's kind of a better way to approach this if you really want referral work from them. Deliver on what you promise, and then let them send you to the 4 or 5 specific people that they really do recommend, that they think will actually book with you, because they know you personally now at this point. But when they're doing this beforehand, when they're like, oh, well, I have social media accounts and all my followers will hire you. No, they won't. They just won't. Don't believe the hype. Okay. It's just not how that works. They use condescending language, backhanded compliments, or are genuinely trying to make you feel less than. Yeah. Okay. This one should be fairly obvious, but don't work with assholes. Like, just don't do that, because you're just going to be mad. Condescending language or backhanded compliments. Let's kind of talk about this. Now, this doesn't mean they're already saying like your photos are shitty, but they might say something like, oh, that's a really creative way that you shot that photo, and I'm sure it's unique. That's not a compliment. That just sounds, it's just them trying to make polite space or sound less judgmental than they are in the first place. Or if they're saying, man, I've had so many, like, it's not happened to me, but I've definitely had photographers come and tell me that they've had clients who booked them first and then started this. But you want to look out for like any sort of like negging that they're going to do. So if they're literally making you feel less than, then you need to make sure that you're not going to do something for them. You are giving them something. So how do you address that? If they're giving you negative compliments, or if they're giving you backhanded compliments, I'm going to be honest. If I start noticing this before the wedding and I did somehow let them slip through, I'm canceling their wedding. Like, they're not going to be on my list. I'm going to give them back the deposit and I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't want to deal with that. it's going to affect how I shoot. It's going to affect my team, and I can't trust that they're not going to make my team also feel less than, and that's not cool either. So when I hear condescending language, or I hear backhanded compliments, or I just hear kind of like a lot of judgment coming from them talking to me, and they don't feel like genuinely nice people, in the middle of the consultation, I'll just say, listen, I don't really appreciate the way that you're talking at this point. It sounds really negative, and I don't think we're a good fit for that reason. So I'm going to go ahead and bounce out, and I just leave. You don't have to, like, you are not owed a full consultation to someone if they're already being rude to you, or they're already negging you out, or they're already showing that they don't value you as a photographer, or as an expert, or as a person even. If you already feel that, you have every right and every reason to just say, you know what? I'm out. I don't need this. Because you don't. You don't need the client that's going to make you feel shitty about your work. Now, if your work is genuinely shitty, that's a reason to go take an editing course. But that's you want to get that kind of feedback from like another photographer. You don't really want to get that kind of feedback from like someone who's trying to pay you for your services. Now, if you do get some compliments back, like some comments back after you deliver, where they say things like, you know, I really don't feel like you covered this well enough, and it's maybe like the first look, then you can look into how to cover that better. But kind of look out for this kind of stuff. Like, you really don't need this. This is probably the worst one to have in your circle. And if one partner, by the way, is condescending and the other one's really nice, still avoid them, because the one that's condescending is going to be the one that's louder. So that's the one that's going to be more of the I say like alpha in the couple, I guess. Like, they're going to be the person that's going to be specifically talking to you and saying mean things, and the other partner is just going to kind of be like, oh, he doesn't really mean that. No, that's just a couple. You don't need to deal with that. Their inconsistencies are not your problem. And so really, when you see this stuff, just leave. Just say, nope, not good. I'm doing something else. So those are the red flags. We talked about some green flags. Again, like, the best way to avoid these kind of situations is to look for these things when you're talking to them, and make sure that if you hear something that you are not cool with, you say, no, I'm not interested. No, I don't think we're a good fit. There's so many different ways to say no, but just understand that no is an option, and almost going into your consultations with the idea that you're probably going to say no, and like allowing the client to change their minds, or they're probably going to say no, and allowing the client to change their minds is going to result in you getting better bookings, right? Because if you're going in saying like, I got to convince this person, or I've got to make, I got to make sure I get a yes, that's desperation coming in. But when you come in and say, you know what, they might say no, and that's okay because I'm higher priced. And then you allow yourself to kind of talk through what's important to them, and really listen and focus, and almost consider it like a practice run when you're talking to them, you're going to end up getting that booking, because you're focused on improving rather than focusing on selling, and you're focusing on serving rather than you're focusing on selling. So the second you have that perspective change for yourself, the second you're going to start getting more and more of those bookings. Hey, if you're a wedding photographer and you like the resources that we talked about in this live, do me a favor, go in the link in the description and join our free group for wedding photographers, or just subscribe to this channel and see more content like this on the regular. Thanks so much.